Ex-Russian General Churkin criticizes Kremlin intelligence over Ukraine war. Ukrainian ghosts wreak havoc. Russian air defenses crumble in Crimea. Trump plays into Putin's hands, eases sanctions on Russian oil giant Lukoil, while Indian media laugh at him. Operators of the primary Ghosts Special Unit of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine have carried out another series of precise, successful strikes on Russian military targets in occupied Crimea, and the results are hard to ignore. Over the past 2 weeks, Ukrainian strike drones delivered 8 successful hits on key elements of the enemy's military infrastructure. Among the targets completely destroyed or severely damaged, a frontline bomber Su-24, an antenna inside a special radar dome, 3 radar stations, a Russian UAV Orion, a military cargo train, and a large military truck Urals. Just yesterday, on December 4th, 2025, at the Kacha military airfield, the Ghosts managed to destroy a way bigger target, a Russian MiG-29 multi-role fighter, a valuable asset used by Russian forces to reinforce air defense over the peninsula. That same night, another strike hit the Irtish airfield radar complex near temporarily occupied Simferopol. Special units of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine continue to methodically weaken Russia's air defense system over Crimea, taking out radars, air defense components, the fighter aircraft themselves, and infamous Russian braggadocio. Unknown drones carried out a series of overnight attacks across Russia early Friday, December 5th, hitting several key targets in different regions. According to Russian local media and Telegram channels, the first strike occurred shortly after midnight in the port of Temryok in Russia's Krasnodar region. The attack sparked a large fire at the port area. Subscribers of the Astra Telegram channel reported that fuel storage tanks caught fire following the explosions. Local authorities later confirmed the drone attack, the blaze, and damage to port infrastructure. A short time later, reports emerged of another strike, this time on the Syzran oil refinery in Russia's Samara region. A fire broke out in the vicinity of the refinery, though the extent of the damage remains unclear. The same night, a drone reportedly struck a high-rise building in Grozny, the capital of Russia's Chechnya. The impact hit the Grozny City Business Center, which houses the office of the Chechen Security Council. More than 50 fuel and military industrial facilities in Russia were struck by the armed forces of Ukraine during the autumn of 2025, according to the General Staff of the AFU. Satellite videos of these strikes were released by Schemes, a Radio Liberty investigative project. Journalists also created an interactive map of the Russian strategic sites that were hit, including military facilities, oil and gas processing plants, oil depots, and terminals. Satellite imagery shows visible destruction at several locations, such as the Saransk mechanical plant in Mordovia, the oil terminal in the port of Tuapse, the Pokrovsk gas processing plant in Russia's Volgograd region, and multiple oil facilities in occupied Crimea. Former Commander-in-Chief of the Russian ground forces, Vladimir Churkin, has sharply criticized the Kremlin's intelligence services for their actions at the start of the war in Ukraine. According to Business Insider, Churkin said these intelligence agencies pushed an unprepared Moscow into launching the full-scale invasion. Journalists note that such statements are highly risky for a senior Russian military figure, even for someone who is no longer in service.
As the classics of Marxism-Leninism said, war is simply the continuation of politics by other violent means. And that is indeed the case. In any war, goals are set, and in this so-called special military operation, the President of the Russian Federation set the objectives of denazification and demilitarization. Any objectives are achieved by solving a series of tasks, tactical, operational, and strategic. That's what we initially tried to assess in this operation. To be honest, I don't intend to criticize anyone personally personally, but in my view, Russia was once again unprepared for war, just as it has been in past years and even in the previous century. Moreover, there was a traditional underestimation of the enemy and overestimation of one's own forces. If you remember, on February 22nd, people were already saying the war would be over in 3 days, like, we'll crush them all right away. Perhaps this was influenced by the so-called Tbilisi syndrome and the events of the 5-day war with Georgia. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. I would give an unsatisfactory assessment to the entire Russian intelligence community. False information was presented to the country's leadership, claiming that 70% of Ukraine's population was on our side and 30% against. It turned out to be exactly the opposite. And what did this lead to? As we now know, in the first weeks, Russia received a harsh and brutal lesson, and the former defense minister tried to frame the situation positively, calling what happened a gesture of goodwill.
But that is not the direst of a problem of Russia. The problem is not in Russia's intelligence services. The problem is that Russian Tsar, Vladimir Putin, has built a system of fear and depression so natural for Russia that all reports to Putin are not reflecting a real combat or intel situation, but are always about one and the same thing: to keep him happy. This is why reports showed reverse picture of social polls in Ukraine, not because Russian intelligence service did not know the actual figures and levels of anti-Russian moods in Ukraine. Of course they knew. Nobody of them just wanted to take a risk of their career and life and let Putin know about the reality, because they knew Putin wanted war no matter what, so it was better to play along than to play against. Mark my words, this Russian general has just fallen out of Russian Tsar's grace, and soon, in an old Russian tradition, is likely to fall out of a window. The defense forces of Ukraine continue to hold the northern part of Pokrovsk, where fighting remains intense. Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrsky, reported on Thursday, December 4th. According to Syrsky, Ukraine is going through an extremely difficult stage of the defense of the Pokrovsk-Mirnohard urban area. Ukrainian troops in the Pokrovsk and Mirnohard sectors are disrupting Russian attempts to assemble assault infantry groups and to advance around the settlements. Earlier, on December 1st, the Institute for the Study of War noted that Russian forces had failed to capture Pokrovsk, despite false claims spread by Moscow, aimed at influencing ongoing negotiations between Russia and the United States.
How strategically important are Mirnograd and Pokrovsk for Ukraine?
I could explain it in a nutshell. Look, it's just one more point on the map, which is captured by Russian forces, and there is no significant role, in general, in geostrategic, from geostrategic point. Just one more city on Ukrainian soil, which have been destroyed.
India is in euphoria. Putin arrived. Now Vladimir Putin and Modi can have fun together over Donald Trump. See for yourself. India Today produced a cartoon for the occasion of Putin's visit. A tune shows the leaders of Russia and India riding a motorcycle past oil rigs, singing an Indian song, The Friendship. As you can see, both seem very happy. Nothing bothers two beautiful friends having fun, holding hands, passing multiple fire launch systems on their way to. But even so, it is imaginary world. Some reality is present. Friends need to refuel their bike, so they are headed to a gas station, and that gas station is owned by the United States of America, and personally, Donald Trump. That is right. The lovely story of a beautiful dictatorial friendship also features Donald Trump at a gas station, where he is mocked by both cartoon friends, Putin and Modi. That seems to be it for today, and for this intense week. Thank you for your attention and for standing firmly with Ukraine. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel to stay tuned to what's happening in the world from a Ukrainian perspective. Goodbye, and see you on Monday.